Yeah.
Hi everyone. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Can you guys hear me well?
Hi.
Yeah, very well.
Yes, it's okay.
Perfect. Perfect. Let's see. It's 1 o'clock. Sabi, do you want to wait another minute or do you want to get started?
So only 4 joined, right?
Sorry?
Only 4 of them joined, right?
We have 37 attendees now.
Already joined. So let's
Yeah.
wait for rest and then we'll start. Let's wait for another 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay. Before we get started, so if this is your first session, if you are not able to join the first one, welcome to this training session on Python, basic Python that Sabi is hosting. Just a quick rules of engagement, right? The guys that were able to attend the first one, they know about this. So we're gonna have nine of these sessions, so 1 hour each. We're gonna build one topic on top of the other, right? So you have access to all the topics that we're gonna try to cover in each session. The Q&A is open, so if you want to ask questions, just either raise your hand or go to the Q&A directly. So I can try to answer, or if not, I'm going to direct to Sabi and he'll answer as soon as possible. Okay. And also after this, the training sessions are completed, we're going to send a quiz and a feedback for you guys to get in any other ways that we can improve this training on automation that we can. Okay. So I think, Sabi, we should be good. We have 61 attendees now.
Okay, sure. Just are you able to see view my screen, guys?
Not yet.
No.
Yeah, it's there.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Let's start. So before we start for today, let's summarize what all already been covered, right? So we started with the idea of network programmability. And based on network programmability, it's part of a framework, and that is what divide in automation and orchestration. So when we talk about a framework, so it is basically of combination of multiple things. And then we started with the automation perspective. When we are doing any kind of automation, what all things that we need?
In charge. So
Sorry? Anyone, any questions?
I think it was, yeah, he's muted now.
Okay. And then based on this automation thing, we have we can do automate you based on we have Ansible, we have Golang, we have Python, and now we are starting with the Python as we can say a simple programming language, right? In order to know as perspective of a network engineer. And based on, in order to run Python, we need we can run Python in different ways. We can have an interactive session, right? And then in the interactive session, it will run line by line. We will have a terminal. We can have a ID, and we will have a file manager to run it. So when we talk about an IDE, basically the IDE is you can have a VS Code, or you can run with PyCharm, you can run with Spider, right? Many other IDEs are also available based on your choice and what kind of use case that you are doing with. And if you are learning, then any of the IDE you can pick up based on your yeah. Hello. Based on your the choice of choosing an ID, right? And then when we talk about Python, so Python depends on the shell, and that is what it refers to a process of REPL, which read, evaluate, print, loop, right? Based on this, it will read line by line, evaluate it, and then print it, and then it will loop back to again read. And then we started with the data structures. So data structures are basically the Python building blocks, right? And when we talk about data structure divide in, we have sequence, we have dictionary, we have sets, we have Boolean, right? So sequence we started with the strings, right? And today we'll start with strings, and then we'll see that first we'll do a reverse engineering. What is the reverse engineering? What I mean to say is, we'll see that why we need this data structures, right? And then we will dig each and every form of it, like a dictionary or a string, right? If I'll go directly with the string, then what is the use case of the string we can discuss later. But I would say that let's dig into the what we are doing in terms of a network automation, and then based on that, one by one, we will go with each of the data structures, right? Let me change my screen to. Let me get this. So I have this. I use this IPython, and based on this IPython, this is an interactive shell that I'm getting, and based on this, what I'm trying to do today is we will try to write a simple script, and based on this script, I'm writing this in a interactive session so that each line by line.
Sorry to interrupt you. Can you share your screen, please?
It is already been shared.
It's been shared already.
I can see it.
Everyone able to see my VS Code?
I'm not able to see.
I can see your screen.
I can see your screen.
Yeah, I think it's been shared, Sabi.
Let me reshare
It should be okay.
Okay, maybe we'll try to disconnect and reconnect maybe, because I'm not seeing it as well. So I'm just gonna try to rejoin and see if there's a difference.
Yeah. So we can write, so whenever we write any kind of scripts, right? So Python is basically used to write a script, and we have two options to do it, right? Whenever we are talking about Python, we are writing a script. What is the reason for that? Either we can go ahead with writing a script to get the information from the device, means pull operation we are doing it, or push operation if in order to configure a device, right? If you are doing any kind of push operation, that means you are configuring a device. And if you are doing any kind of getting the log information, getting the config file, or getting any perspective by, for example, show commands, that is what you are doing, a pull operation from a Python, right? So IPython provides an interactive session to me, and by which I can execute my code line by line, right? So first we'll see that what is the code will look like, and based on that, where our data structure will fit in this, what is the variable, what is the dictionary. So we'll see, we'll look into it, right? So first thing, whenever we connect a device, right? So we need a module for that. Any module, like for example, you can ask me, it started with Paramico, right? And the connection module, when we talk about the connecting a device, this module will help to connect the device using SSH, right? Similarly, first Paramico comes and then NetMiko enhanced it. So I'm using NetMiko for the time being. I'm using NetMiko, and then I will have some how to print it in a structural way. So I'm just getting this module again. Now I just want to connect to a device, right? So as you everyone knows that we don't have the device server available or the lab available. So I'm using a sandbox, which is Cisco Sandbox. The IP stands for in which device we are getting into. OK, and this is a variable. OK, and what variable that we are giving an IP address to it. Now I'm giving a sandbox iOS XC, which means that it's a string. Either we can give an IP address to connect a device, and then if I type that, what structure it is, right? What is the structure of this one? It's a string basically, because if you remember from the last class, anything which is inside the quotes is said to be a string. So we are just wants to connect under the hood of this NetMiko. It asks for an IP address to connect a device. So I'm using a variable, and that variable I'm specifying which IP that I want to connect, right? And then I need basically a username. Likewise, when you do when you connect to a device using CLI, or when you do SSH or Telnet, right? You put the username and password. Similarly, I'm writing in this code, and based on this is the IP that I'm providing. With that, I'm giving a username to it, and then password. So once I give the password, username, now I need to specify what kind of device it is, what kind of iOS, or for example, if I want to connect to a Nokia device, then what is the Timos version to it? Or if I want to connect to a Juniper device, then what is the Junos device type it is? So based on this, NetMiko is programmed accordingly so that it will able to fetch the information based on the device type it is, right? And then what port number, if there is any kind of specialized port that I want to use it, customized port, you mean to say. Now I'm using 22, which is the default port for SSH. So these are the parameters that I'm providing in order to connect a device. So first thing, a variable IP, which I'm giving in the form of IP address or a string, username, password, device type, port, everything. If you see that, variables are everything in the form of strings, right? So this is the significance of using a data structure of strings, and then we'll gradually see what is the more means what else we can do with the strings. So now I will give a variable in order to connect a device. So I'll have a variable that is net connect, and then I'm using NetMiko, which I'm importing it, and out from that I'm using a module connect handler, which able to connect your device, and I'm giving the syntax in this, in which I'm specifying the IP address. This is predefined. If you go to pi.org and then type NetMiko, it will give you how to connect a device. It will give you a syntax, how to use that syntax. And based on this parameter, you are passing this parameter to it. So IP equals to IP. For example, if I write here something as, let's say, device, so I will mention as device. So what I'm doing it over here, based on this IP, what variable we defined from a user perspective. So that's what we are calling over here. Then device type, what is the device type? I'm specifying the device type, username, password, and port number. So this is a syntax. This is a variable. And using this syntax, I'm able to connect to the device now. OK, And then, for example, if I want to fetch any information from there, right? So I need to specify a variable and then call this variable, because this variable which connects to our device. And then based on that, what operation that I want to do. Mine means where I'm doing a send operation. I'm just sending a send command, right? Now, this module, I connect the device, send the command, and what is the command is show version, right? If I do show version, right? So show version will give basically, it will go to the device, get the information, pull the information from the device. Now remember this, whenever we are doing any kind of operation with using Python, right? The output that we get is always in the form of string every time. But when we get this in the form of string, so how to get this information? For example, I don't want this information. I want only the version. What is the version in this? In order to print, so for example, you are writing a code and in that you only want to get the version information. What is the version information of this iOS XE or the Timoth version? So from this string, you cannot get it. You cannot parse it. So in order to parse, we need to convert this in a different data structure. So that data structure is what we refer to as, now what we are doing is string manipulation. We need to do string manipulation in order to access each and every component that we are looking at. So the first string manipulation that we will do, for example, show version dot split is a.
I think there is a question. Someone raised a hand there, Sabi.
Yeah,
Yusuf?
please.
Yes. So Sabi, just going a little bit earlier in your code, you specified the version to be Cisco iOS. How do I get the different device types? For example, for most likely, at least for myself, I'm gonna use like Nokia SROS. So how would I get the right syntax for the device type to define that it's a Nokia device?
So basically, where you need to go. So for example, whenever you are using any kind of module, right, like NetMiko, Paramico, Nonnear, anything, what is the syntax that you are looking for a device type like Nokia, right? So you need to go to the pi.org, and then you need to specify the module over it. If Nokia supports that module, then you will get the device type as Nokia, right?
Okay. And how do I get the or how do I display the different modules that are defined in NetMiko?
So that is there in the documentation. You need to go to the documentation of NetMiko, and then you get all the information about the device type. Or for example, any syntax, whatever we are sending. For example, how to connect a device, you will get a syntax. If you want to send command, you will have the syntax. If you want to configure anything, then you will also have the syntax for that.
Okay.
So now it is too early to say that means go through this, but I'm just trying to do a reverse engineering kind of thing where we are using strings, because next we'll go through the strings and why string manipulation is important.
Got it. Thank you.
Right. So as we are getting the entire information from a, for example, string, right? The entire bunch of this one is in the form of string, and we need to get into some of the value to parse it. So by that way, we need to do a string manipulation, and based on the string manipulation, we will use string split. This is my string, and then dot split. So dot split is a method which converts your string into list. And then we have a marker over here. See, the marker says that how to pass a value, right? So if, for example, you want default is space, and if you want to specify a comma, you can specify a colon. That depends on how your string look like, right? For example, if I do this one, right? So if I run this one in the form of split, and then what is happening? Each and every item which is separated with a comma, is now in the form of list, right? So for example, if I do X equals to show version split, right? What it will happen? So it will give me a show interface. X equals to show version dot split space, right? Now X, right? Now X is this is a value which is already been fetched and converted from a string to a list. So if I do a type of X, so we will get this is the form of list, right? And then we can access each and every value to it. So this is what I'm trying to say, that whenever we receive any kind of value in the form of string, we have a leverage to get those information in the form of convert in the form of list. And based on this list, we can convert that whatever data that we want to get it, right? For example, the next is if I go with show, for example, if I want to get the show IP interface brief, right? And let's change this to show interface. So now I get a show interface. So everyone knows that this will give us the show interface details, right? So now this is the form of string. I get it. I got it in the form of string. So if I do a type of this, so this is a form of string. Now I want to get the IP address from this. How I'll get it? So now we need to manipulate this information. And based on this manipulation, we will use what? We will use split function. OK, for example, I have, in order to show you better simple code, for example, A equals to this is right. And if I do a type of A, it is a string. I want to fetch the IP address from this. How I would do it? Anyone? How to fetch only the IP address from this string? Similar, if I want to fetch the IP address from the string of the first Ethernet gigabit Ethernet 1, so how I will do that? So the easiest way to do it is using a split function. And now I convert this in the form of list. And then if we have something in the list, right? So now this is a list, and then we can go to the index, use indexing, and then we can say that this is what the value of the first index, and we will go to the second and then fetch the information about the IP address. Right. So this is what the string manipulation is. Right. If you go back to the code again, let's go back to this code. For example, you wrote a script. So you wrote a script, for example, user equals to developer, password equals to, for example, this one. So you write a script, and in that script, you mention that to the user input, right? You say that user input, print the username, and the user who provide the username, it provided based on the all caps or first letter in caps, but your router only accepts everything in small case, right? So there comes another method that we want to do it is your upper and lower case. OK. Everyone got the split function? Any question in the split function?
Any questions, guys, on the split?
So why we are using split, or what is the reason why we use split? The reason why we are using split is every time when we execute a script, we get it in the form of string. And in order to parse those value, which is only required, I don't need this yes, NVRAM, up. I don't need this one. So in order to parse this value, so I can use string in order to convert the string to a list, and from the list, you can parse the value. This is the reason why we use split, and split will have different parameters we can specify. And based on this parameter, for example, if I have a MAC address, So I can split that also in the form of MAC address, and I can access that value, right? The second manipulation is if you ask an user to provide a username or a password, and the user gave this one in the form of capital, all capital, or one capital. So what? But if the user provide a wrong way in order to have a case sensitive way, right? So how you can tackle those things as well? There comes the methods, right? So we have a method. For example, I have a host name. So host name, let's say, is RTR1. This is the host name. This should be the exact host name that is being needed. But as a user input, for example, if anyone puts that in a value of host name and capital, everything in capital. So how we can convert this host name to a required value? This is my required value, and this is how the user input the information as all capital. So we have something called as lower. So by that way, everything will be converted to the lowercase. Similarly, a user input is all in small case, but the requirement is first letter should be in capital. So how we can do that? So we can say that host name dot capitalize, and then the first letter will get capital, converted to capital. Right. So this is what I'm trying to say about the string manipulation whenever we are. So string manipulation is important because whenever we are dealing with any kind of writing a script and dealing with the user input, so these string manipulation will come into picture. So similarly, we will have upper. So if I do, for example, host name dot upper, so it will give me all, it will convert everything in capital. Right.
Sabi,
For
quick
example,
question. Can you do the same string manipulation for a string that's in a list?
Yeah, we can do that. We can access the list, and from the list and then we can convert it.
Okay.
For example, this is the value, right? So let's start with this. So A equals to this. So this is my string. So first what we did, we convert that to a list. So now it's a list. Now we know that in order to access. So first of all, in order to know about this, what is how many items are there in your list? The first thing is you need to know about the list items. So total number of items there in your list is 6. So you can check with the help of length. So based on this, for example, in a list, I want to know what is the last item of this one. So what I can do is A split, and then I can access the last item as -1, because whenever indexing starts from right to left, sorry, left to right, it starts with 0, 1, 2, like this. From right to left means from the last item to the first item, it starts with -1, negative of 1. Now I want to convert this first item to all lowercase, right? So I'll have an variable X, and then I will do A split of, so I convert, so X is now my this one, right? So now either I can do directly, but if, for example, if I have a variable X, so X of 0, so X of 0 is what? Now Y is my first letter. So I can convert this as Y dot lower, and then everything is small. If I do a Y dot upper, everything is, if I do Y dot capitalize, only first letter will come as So only the first letter will come capitalize. Capitalize. So only the first letter will become in caps. So these are all the
quick question there, Sabi again. So are all lists circular the way that you showed? Because you took an index of -1, meaning that a list is a circular, right? So you can go from left to right and right to left. Are all of them always circular?
Yes.
Okay.
We can go. So whenever we want to go come from the last item, we need to use -1. And whenever we are going from accessing the first item, so we'll start with 0.
Okay, thanks.
So this is, for example, this is a list, and in this list, we don't know how many values are there and what is the last value of it, right? So we can access the last value from -1 and then -2, -3 like that. So once we will go to the list data structure, we'll discuss more about it, right? So another example is, for example, I have an IP address, right? So IP equals to, for example, 192.168.1.1. So it's an IP address, and I want to change this IP address first octet, right? So how I can convert this first one? So again, the same thing. You need to first convert this to split. Means you need to first convert this one, and the separator is now what? Dot. Right? Now I don't want to change this last 3 octet. I just want to change this first octet. Right? So what I can do is, so there is a max separator option with the split available. So what it gives us, you can able to now change, because if you remember, list is mutable. We can change the first value, and then from list we can convert back again this to a string. That is join function. Okay. So first thing, we have an IP address, right? You parse an IP address from for example, a log file, and based on this log file, now you will use that, but you will alter that first value. You want to change that from first values from 192 to 172 or 10 dot something, right? So first thing, you need to access what you want to do it. So we will access, and at the same time we will do a max separator for that. For example, if I use 2 over here, what will happen? I will have first 2 octet. If I use 3 over here, then what will happen? Everything will be separated using a list. And then converting back, doing a reverse engineering again, converting back to a list to a string, we can use a join function. Okay. And again, so for example, one more example I have is, I have a string IP and this one. So string also we can do indexing. So if I do, for example, length of IP, so I'll get total values inside it is 11. But in this, it also counts the space as well. If you have a space, it will count a character for this. So if I want to access the first value of this string, so I can get what? 1. And if I want to access the last value of it, again -1. So similarly, when you are going from left to right, right to left. So left to right, 0 to the integers value, all positive. Whenever you are coming from last to the first, you will need to use -1, negative of the value. Okay, so this is what is an indexing using Python. No, sorry, for the strings, indexing for the strings basically we'll use. Now I want to use. Could you please tell me?
There's a question.
Yeah.
Sabi.
Hi, Sabi. Shouldn't IP0 give us 192?
No. So basically so whenever we have an IP address, right? So whenever we will have, for example, a list. So list will count this entire value as 0, right? This entire value as 1, because each items for the list is entirely within a string, it calculates as the one value. But when we talk about a string, so string each value, for example, I will have 1 space 9 space 2 space dot space 1 space 6 space 8.
Oh, okay. Right? It's not
Got
split yet. Okay. I thought, all right.
So now if I do length of what should be the value for this? Length of this IP would be, so it will calculate this space as well in this. So it is 13, right? Okay. And if I want to access the value, let's say 0, and then let's say 1 is a space. So it will come as 1, let's say. So there is no value, it's a space. In strings, everything is calculated. Each and every space, item, everything is calculated. But in case of list, whatever is inside quotes, that is only being calculated. This is a difference between a list indexing and a string indexing.
Okay, thanks.
Right. So, for example, now to everyone, I want to access Y from this, right? I want to only get the value Y. So how I can do that? What value should I use? Anyone? If I'm using from
5.
We're gonna start giving prizes. By the way, so I forgot to tell you that's to increase participation. So it's gonna be something per right answer. We still don't know what, but we're gonna have prizes.
Yeah. So basically,
Is it going to be 5?
Yeah. If it is, there are two ways to extract this value. If you are going from left to right, it is 5, right? For example, if I have 5, I will access 5. If I am coming from right to left, so it will be negative value. And based on this negative value, I can access this one as well. So this way, and as well as this way, you can access this value. Okay. The important thing, whenever we are having this kind of situation to access something, right? Whenever you are dealing with any kind of nesting dictionary and anything, right? First thing you get to know what is the length of it. Even though you have a dictionary, even though you have a list, even though you have a string. So whenever you are dealing to parse a value, you want to get to know first the length of it and what is the type of it. And based on this length and type, you will able to parse it, right? Whether it's a string, whether it's a list or list inside dictionary, whatever it is. So whenever we are trying to fetch any information from a list or from a string or from a list inside dictionary, so we'll get this information, right? To give you another example, okay, let's continue. Last, I'll give another example. OK. So another important thing is how you will merge a string. For example, I have A equals to 192.168.1.1, right? Oh, sorry. And B equals to the subnet mask of it, 255.255.255, right? I have two variables, A and B, but the requirement here is I want to write a statement, for example, config equals to IP address 192.168.1.1 space 255.255.255.255. I want to write a statement like this. OK. So in order to write this statement, what you will do it? So you ask a user to input a IP address. You ask a user to input a subnet mask of it, right? Or you can say that you can use /20/32 as well, whatever you want to, right? So we can also have like C equals to, you ask the user /32, right? You ask user to input the subnet mask and you ask the user to input the IP address, and then it will give you a format like this. OK, or you are creating a, for example, GUI, and based on the GUI, you will have a tab. So in user input IP, user input subnet mask, it will give you this line. It can also be done like this. So how you can merge these two values? Anyone?
As you said, with
there's-
a join function, right?
Join is, yeah. So split is converting a string to a list. Join is converting a list to a
To
string.
a string. Okay.
So
But-
there's a format, I think,
Oh,
function.
you
Right.
can add like A plus
Yes.
D, A plus B.
So D equals to, for example, there are many ways to do it, right? So in 2.7, generally what we use is A plus B. I can do this. And what is the value of D? So again, sorry. D equals to A plus B. So what is D? Now, if you see that, so what is the reason why I didn't get the value from this? Anyone can tell? What is the value if I merge A and B together with a string? Why it was AB? Why not this value?
Because
takes
it's a
A
string
and
in the
B.
first place.
It's a separate value altogether. It's not this one. It's a separate string altogether, right? It's a different string. It is not the same value, right? So now going back to this, A coming from this value, memory, and B coming from this. If I'm concatenate these two values, it is getting you this one. If you see that between this, there is no space. How to rectify this one? So every time when you concatenate between strings, you need to take care of the space as well, because string counts the space as well. So if I want to write this one like this, then I would have A plus B and then B. Then if I give, so 192, 168, 1.1 space. So space is also a character. Space is also a string in this. And if I do a type of this one, what it will give us? It will give us a string. Clear?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
For example, so we can also do in a very other formats as well, like F string we can do, format string we can do, but there is a reason why I use only a simple way to do it. So if we will learn it, so for those who know Python, so for this it will be easier, but for those who are new to Python, so that's the reason why I said it will calculate this string as well. It will calculate this space as well. We'll go to the format function as well. We'll go to the F string as well. But for now, this is how it calculates, right? Now, another thing, if a user write an IP address like this, okay, and the subnet, for example, subnet mask, for example, like this, right? So you know that you have it will calculate the string. If I do, for example, length of IP, it will calculate this space as well. So 19, it calculate each and every tabs, each and everything. So how to deal with this? And now, for example, D equals to, if I do IP plus subnet mask. So the value of D will be like this, space, space, space. So this is not, so for if you're sending this kind of value to the router will ignore it, right? You will get a syntax error. So how to deal with this? Anyone?
You have to remove all the extra space.
Yes, I want to remove all the extra space.
Yeah.
How to do that?
I think you can use this string dot. I forget, it's called strip. I think with strip command.
Yeah. It is
Yes.
strip, yeah.
Yeah.
Dot
It's
strip will remove the space from right and left, right? Or else you will have L strip for the left side of it, R strip for the right side, if you want to be very specific about it. So strip is a method as well in order to remove the space Okay. Everyone got it?
Yeah, sorry, I just have a question to ask. So, in line 78, you have D equals IP plus subnet mask. So
Yeah.
if you go ahead and do D equals IP strip, then plus subnet mask dot strip, definitely will that give you the right answer?
Yes, it will. Yes, it will.
Okay.
So basically, if I do IP, it will not again. Okay, okay. Let's do this one. IP and then plus of subnet mask. It will give us a correct value, correct form of IP address. Subnet mask dot strip. So this is correct way to define this one, this value.
No, you'll be missing a space.
Yes.
Right.
So now we don't have this space, so we need to provide a space in this.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So in order to also, this is the way to do it. In order to tackle this one, we can have, for example, like let's say D equals to IP address, and then we will specify here as IP, or you can specify as, for example, 0. And then we have a space over here, and then we can specify as 1. And now we can use here as a format function. So format function, one is your IP, and second one is your subnet mask. Right. Dot IP subnet mask and mask. Okay. IP address 1. It is giving error. Dot format, yeah. Dot format XY. Oh, sorry. This is right now D equals to IP address, and then we have a space. We can remove the space. So we will get this syntax like this, right? Why we got this space over here? Because our variable is itself is containing the space. So we can change this one to means remove this space from this, and then we can write in the form of format string. This is how the format string works. Like whenever you write a code, you write in this format, or you will use form f string to do that. Okay. Any questions? Anyone? Any questions?
The strip function just will remove the spaces.
Yes.
Or okay.
Only remove the space. So strip function will remove the space from right and left side.
Okay.
If you want to use specific way to do it, like left side L strip, right side R strip.
Okay.
Same thing we can write in a Python 3.6 onwards. We'll have f string, right? So I will say that IP address, and directly I can put the IP here and subnet mask. So this is what the f string do for us. So this is the format string do for us, and this is the way, for example, direct string concatenation. So whenever we are merging two different strings or something, we will have multiple ways to do it. The most favorable way to do this one, or anyone who is writing in this format using the format as well, this is also correct.
And the format in the format syntax, when you have the 0 and 1, it's an index for the inputs.
Yes.
In the format. So 0 would, if you wrote like 1 0, for example, then it would print subnet and then IP, for example.
Right. Okay. Correct. So for example, if I change this to 0 and 1, and now if I type D, then first subnet will come, because so this format will give the indexing. Correct.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Right. So another thing, for example, if I am writing something in the form of, I want to count the number of items, right? For example, X equals to 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So if I want to count how many times 2 is there is another method that we have is count. So count, and then we mention that as 2. So it will say that in our string, number of times the 2 is there is 4 times. OK, so this is how the count method works. And we have the count as we have different syntax. What is the start? From where you want to start it, from where you want to end, and which value you want to see. You also do that, like, for example, X count of 2, or let's say count as 1, and starting for the value is what I mentioned, that start from 0th position and end at the last one. So 0 from where it will start counting, -1, negative of 1, till what? Start and end position. And then it will see that. If I change this to, for example, let's start with this value. Let's say I'll give you 4. So it will say 3. So it will start counting from here. OK, so whenever this is basically use case, you can say that you are having a log file. But whenever you get an information from a router, you will get it in the form of, for example, in the form of string, right? So you fetch a log file, log ID 99, and then you want to find how many times that IP address or for example, interface is there. So you can search based on this using a count. Right, and then we will have some similar. We'll have a find. We can find the information about it, right? We can also have, for example, IP address 192.168. Now I want to find whether that IP address starts with 192 or 172, right? So I can see that I can try to do that using like starts with, right? Starts with. If I say that starts with 192, but it's saying false because I'm starting from here, right? If I'll say that only start from anywhere of the string, right? So it will say that it's false because it's not able to find this one. Correct. So if I do, for example, let's say X equals to IP.strip. Now, if I do X dot start with, and if I say 192, so it will give me true. Means the string from where it is starting from, it's not starts with 192, it starts with the space, right? Now I change that, I remove this space. X is what? X is my only IP address, there is no space. And then I want to look at this variable, and it say that start looking at 192. So it will say that true. It will give you a Boolean value. OK, clear? Anyone? Any questions? Any questions, guys?
I think there is one. Mona?
No questions?
OK, no questions then.
OK, so this is all about strings, and we will have other methods as well, which is if means in order to go through is find, upper, lower, like that, right? So let's go to this one. So these are all the methods. Everyone able to see this?
Yes.
It's visible to everyone,
Yes.
right? So these are all the string methods. We'll have capitalize, swap case, title, lower, upper. So swap case is it will swap based on if it is a lower case, it will swap that to upper. If it is uppercase, it will swap that to a lower, right? And then we will have string concatenation, we'll have split, we'll have indexing. We have strip, rstrip, lstrip, and strip. We will have format, fstring, and templates. Like we already been used. We have found, we have count, find, and starts with. So these are all the well-known functions, methods, by which we will use our string to manipulate it.
Actually,
Okay.
just a question, Sabi. The difference between count and find is what exactly?
So count is basically you will able to count how many times your value is. Find is it will give you the value of the position of it. Which
So
position?
going back to your example, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If you say find 1, 2, 3, is it just gonna stop at the first time?
First time.
That it finds it and then exits, or is it gonna find each one of them?
No, only for the first time. If it gets the value 1, 2, 3, the first position, then done.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Right. So for example, that's X. So X value change. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Right. Now I want to find X find, right? X find or find 1, 2, 3. So what had happened is it only search for once it is true, then it will end searching. So it says that position value 0 is 1, 2, 3. But if I'll say that, OK, go ahead and search after fourth value, right? Fourth index and till last. So it will say that, OK, after fourth, again, I have the fourth starting from fourth also I have. If I'll say that start searching after the fifth value. So it will say that, OK, 8th one is that, right?
Okay,
and if
so
I say
it
that
returns the value of the index which it starts with, basically.
Yes. Once it search about it and then get to know about the position, it will not look at the remaining values.
Got it. All right, perfect. Thank you.
Right. So you have what value you want to search it or find it, what from where you want to start, and till when you will keep looking for this value. Right. For example, you want to search a find 192.168.1.1 in your log file, whether it is there or not. So you can start from you run a script, get the log file, and based on this log file, you got the entire string, and then you want to find the IP address, whether it is there or not. And once it is there, you can find yes, true or false, or the position of it, right? Or count, you can use count, how many times that appears, right? Got it?
So can you find the position of all the times that it appears? Let's say you have multiple times that it appears, the position of it, all of it at the same time.
No, all of the same time, you need to run a loop for that. You need to convert that a string to a list. And then in order to access all the values, then you need to run a loop for in that. Once you run a loop, you will get the values, how many times and which position it is. Right. We'll go gradually as well, how we can parse it. So just now, a string, and we have methods in the string, and we have indexing, we have split, we have strip. Remember these things, and then once we go further, we'll use and we'll go much more detail about it, right? How we can go further to it. Right? Any questions?
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah. So Luis, will continue further or?
Yeah, I was about to do a time check there. So we have, yeah, it's 1:58. If you think it's a good position to stop, we can stop and continue further on the next session.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Guys, any other question on specific on this or the previous session that we had? Of course, you can always reach out to Sabi directly, but.
Yeah, anytime, whenever you have questions or anything you want to discuss, right? So you can reach out to me. You have the chat box open for the questions, anything. So the main thing is at least this training should be fruitful to everyone, right?
I think we have a question, Kevin.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just hit the wrong button. I just want to react.
Okay.
Instead of
So
raising
that's
hand.
that's a waving. Thanks.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, guys. Thank you again, Sabi, for this another great session there. We're gonna have the next session on Friday, same time, 1 p.m. Right? And I'll make the recording available as soon as possible. Okay. Thank you all for joining. We talk
Thank
again
you.
on Friday.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.